Hi everyone, good evening, Butang, Assalamualaikum and magandang gabi sa lahat. Ate G, sorry talaga sa late upload at saka sa mga waiting po na mabasa ko yung kanilang mga novel at sa mga nag-request baka po, sorry talaga, and baka by January na lang po. Pero try ko po mag-update sa dito po ng mga novel ko pagka may oras kasi alam nyo na po December. Well, Ate G, sorry talaga, and tuloy ko po ang His Runaway Wife chapter 29, Damian's Point of View. A baby. I was going to be a father. It was 2 weeks after Rebecca had been here in California to tell me she was pregnant, and I still could not believe it. It was one of those things that you would forget for a moment as you went throughout your day, and then suddenly the thought would pop up into your head and it would make you feel happy and smile out of nowhere, and everyone would wonder why you're such in a good mood. At least that was how it had been for the past 2 weeks at work. I had not told anyone the news yet, mostly because I wanted to keep it to myself for a moment. My secret happiness, just between Rebecca and I, and Alexa, who was the only other person that knew. Of course, I would have tell to Aaron and my mom soon. It somehow seemed surreal that Rebecca was pregnant, probably because we were not living together yet. If it was hard to live in a different state than her before, it was even harder now. All I wanted was to be with her, to care for her, and give her anything she needed. Alexa will be leaving to New York during the second week of June, which was 2 weeks away. I didn't want to leave Rebecca alone. I would not. So I told her I would go stay with her until we could both come back to California after she sold her house. Damian, that's not really necessary, she told me over the phone when I told her I would go stay with her. Of course it is, I insisted. I want to be with you. What about the clinic? I will leave Karen in charge for now. She got quiet on the other line at the mention of Karen. I knew Rebecca was not jumping with joy at the fact that I worked with Karen. I should have known sooner. I understood, I really did, and I wanted nothing more than make Rebecca happy. The thing was that I needed Karen right now. She was the only one who knew the clinic as good as me. When I told her that I was going to Nevada to spend time with Rebecca, Karen didn't object in staying in charge of the clinic. And I thought that maybe Rebecca and I were wrong. Maybe Karen didn't have any feelings for me and it was all okay. And then I said, Rebecca is pregnant and I want to spend as much time with her as I can. My smile faded when I saw Karen's reactions. She was trying to hide it, but I knew her too well. She was hurt. I immediately regret saying anything at all. I was not thinking about what I was saying. I was too excited. Wow, Karen finally said, then cleared her throat. A baby. That's great. Exciting. I know you've been always wanted a family. Damian, congrats. Thank you, I said quietly. Yes, it's very exciting. She nodded slowly, as if she were trying to assimilate the news. Well, I better go, she said after a moment, grabbing her purse. Have a good trip. Don't worry about me, the clinic. I'll take care of it. I decided not to tell her that I would not leave for another week. I had things to do and could use the time off work anyway. Thank you, I said, but she was already walking out the door. That was when I realized Rebecca was right. I could not keep working with Karen for the good of both of us. She needed to move on too. I would eventually have to let her go. It felt selfish, but it would have to wait until after Rebecca and I came back. If I let Karen go right now, I would not be able to go to Rebecca, and I needed to be there with her. Karen was the only one who could look after the clinic for an undetermined amount of time. We didn't know how long it was going to take to sell Rebecca's house and settle things at her job. Meanwhile, the deal for the house I had bought for Rebecca had closed 2 weeks ago, and I used the week before I would leave to Nevada to get as much furniture inside the house as I could. It was mostly just the living and dining room. Rebecca had helped choose it through pictures I would send to her. We would take care of the baby's room together once we moved in. Every time I passed the room next to ours, it was a reminder that it would soon be occupied by a baby. Everything was coming together quite nicely. Though the hard part was coming, and that was telling my mother I was moving out for good. I also had not tell her she was going to be a grandma. Yet, mostly because I've been trying to find the right way to confront her about how she treated Rebecca. One evening, as I got home, I found her in the dining room table going over something in her iPad. "Hi, sweetie," she said, glancing briefly before looking at her iPad again. "How was your day?" "Good," I said, looking at the living room, then down the hall. "Is Aaron home?" "No, he's out." "Good," I repeated, and pulled out a chair and sat in front of her. "I was hoping we could talk." "Of course," she said distractedly. "What about?" "Rebecca." She froze at the sound of her name, then slowly she put the iPad aside and finally looked at me. "Why? What did she tell you?" I frowned. "Why do you always express yourself like that whenever we talk about her?" I asked her, loosening my tie. "Express myself how?" she asked, looking all innocent, like she had no idea what I was talking about. "We dislike in bad taste," I said. "It makes me think that everything she told me about how you've been treated her is true. Rebecca has always exaggerated everything," she said, almost rolling her eyes. I narrowed my eyes at her. "Mom, I think you like to forget that Rebecca is my wife. She is not going anywhere. You need to accept that." Her brown eyes met mine. "How do you know she is not going to leave you again? You took her back so easily. She can very well do it again." "Rebecca left because I was failing her as a husband." I paused and looked at her. "And because you mistreated her." "I didn't." "Mom, please don't lie to me." I love my mom. What kind of son would I be if I didn't? But it was time for me to be a man and stand up for Rebecca. Stand up for our marriage, for our child, and any other future children down the road. I think that the years I spent in school and then at work made me miss a lot of the reality that was going on at home when Rebecca and I were newlyweds. Deep down, maybe I began to accept that my mom was not the woman I thought she was. The dove planted itself back when Rebecca came back and told me about it first. I guess I didn't want to believe that my own mother would be capable of mistreating a person on purpose. My own mother mistreated my wife without me noticing. I was so consumed in my career that I didn't see what was going on at home with my wife. Maybe Rebecca would have never run away if I would have paid attention. It was too late for that. I could not do anything about the past except learn from it. Now, as I looked into my mother's eyes, I knew. I knew everything Aaron and Rebecca had said was true. It made me angry, but most of all, it made me sad. I shook my head in disbelief. I don't get it, Mom. Why? She never deserved you. Because she is not who you choose for me. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my disillusionment. I've always tried to please you. I've always done everything you've asked to make you happy, but going as far as letting you choose a wife for me? No. Even you have to realize how unfair that would have been. I just wanted what was best for you. I always will, and that woman, she stopped. I would have spared you the pain. She caused you when she left if you would have listened to me and not marry her. Jesus, Mom, I don't need you to spare me anything. I stood up, suddenly needing the move to keep myself from yelling at her. I placed my hands on the chair and leaned in so she would look at me. I'm an adult, a grown man. I am capable of making my own decisions. I don't regret marrying Rebecca. I never will. If anything, I'm glad she ran away because now I know the truth about your intentions towards her. If I could choose all over again, I would still marry her. I love her. She is the love of my life. I don't know how to make you understand that. I don't think I ever will, she said, her voice full of arrogance and determination. I could not believe it. She was disappointing me with every word she said. How did I not see this before? I wanted to go crazy, but thinking about all the things she did to Rebecca and all the other things I didn't know about, now I understood that she had no boundaries. Oh, how Rebecca must have suffered under our own roof, and I was too blind to see it. My mom was wrong. I was the one who didn't deserve Rebecca. I reached for my jacket and gripped it. Rebecca is pregnant, I told her. I watched as she opened her mouth in complete shock. Or maybe she was just angry at the news. I didn't know anymore. Not that you deserve to know, I continued. But there you go. You know now. So every time you miss an important day in my child's life, you'll remember that it's because of your own hate towards Rebecca. I won't let you mistreat her anymore and even less mistreat my child. I'm leaving, Mom. I hope you can find some type of happiness with your hateful heart. Her eyes filled up with tears as I said this, but I found it easy to walk away to my room. I took out my suitcase and began to put all my clothes and what was left of my things. I had already taken Rebecca's clothes and other things to the house over the week, so there was not much left. It took me less than 30 minutes to get everything I needed. Damian, my mom called after me as I walked down the hall. To the front door, Damian, please don't do this. Please don't leave, she cried. I stopped before the front door and turned to look at her. I wanted to tell her so many things, but I knew I was just going to hurt her more. She was already crying sorry, hysterically on her knees. Goodbye, Mom, I said instead before walking out. The door shut behind me as if shutting my mom from my life. Chapter 30. Sorry. Rebecca's point of view. I looked down at the toilet and waited and waited and waited. Nothing was coming. This had been happening way too often now, and I was tired. I would feel like throwing up, so I would run to the toilet, and then the feeling would linger, but I would not throw up. I hated throwing up, so when I had to do it, I just wanted to get it over with. Unfortunately, pregnancy didn't give a damn about what I wanted. I sat on the floor, somehow knowing that if I went back to bed, I would just need to come right back. The toilet and I have developed a relationship during the last few weeks. I see the toilet more than I see Alexa. I didn't have morning sickness, I had night sickness. It always started at around 10 and went through the night. Though when I googled morning sickness, I found out that it could happen at any time during the day. It didn't make sense why they didn't just call it sickness, but whatever. I haven't been feeling well enough to go to work. I tried at first and it was fine for the first few weeks when I came back from California, and then something changed. One night, ca- nausea kept me from sleeping and first sleeping, and that was the first night of many that I spent on the floor next to the toilet. I was really hoping this was not a view into my future for the rest of this pregnancy. Sorry. I was tired. I looked tired. I just wanted to sleep through the night. I had my first doctor's appointment on Friday and I was hoping for reassurance. Sometimes I wish I had a friend to talk to about this. Someone that knew what I was going through. I'd never missed my mother more than these last few weeks. She would tell me if it was normal. She would stay up with me. She would hold me and kiss the top of my head to make me feel better. I didn't even realize I was crying until I tasted the salty tear on my lip. I was a mess. The sound of my phone vibrating on the nightstand makes me frown and scrambled up to my feet with a groan. It was late, probably around 4 in the morning. Alexa was sleeping in the next room. Who could it be? My eyes widened when I looked at the caller ID. I felt my heart beating hard against my chest. Damian, are you all right? I answered, pressing the phone hard against my ear. Rebecca, he said. Yes, I'm okay. Sorry, did I wake you? I felt relief go through my body. He was okay, yet he didn't sound okay. I knew something was wrong with him by the sound of his voice. I sat on the bed slowly and faced the TV. Pirates of the Caribbean was on, though I had it on mute, not wanting to wake Alexa up. No, you didn't. It was his turn to sound concerned. Why? Are you all right? I half smiled. Yes and no. I can't sleep. I've been up vomiting, or at least trying to. Oh, sorry. I wish I could do something to help. It's okay. I know it's part of growing a baby. I smiled weakly. I wish you were here, though. Well, that's actually why I was calling you. I'm at the airport about to board a plane to Nevada. I frowned. Really? I thought you were not coming until tomorrow. A few weeks ago, Damian told me his plans about coming to stay with me until we were both able to return to California together. At first, I didn't know if it was a good idea just because of his clinic. He had never left it for a long period of time, but Damian insisted, so I just went with it. Now, I was so glad he was coming to me. I missed him terribly. I knew it would have gotten worse when Alexa left to New York next week, so I was happy Damian was coming. Besides, I hadn't been able to hire an agent to sell the house yet because I've been too sick to do anything lately. With Damian here, he would be able to help me with that so we could leave sooner. But he was not supposed to come until Thursday, which was tomorrow, so he could be here for the first doctor's appointment. I knew he had already purchased the plane ticket for tomorrow, which meant he had bought another one for today, which confirmed that something was up with him. I changed my mind. I miss you and I want to be with you. My chest fluttered at his words, but I frowned. Damian, is everything okay? There was a moment of silence on his end which only made me more nervous. Are you hurt? Are you okay? I pressed, imagining the worst, though if he was hurt. It didn't make sense for him to come to me. It was not like I could heal him. I'm okay, he finally said. Perfectly fine in one piece, don't worry. He signed. I had an argument with my mother and he paused. I just didn't want to be alone. He sounded so vulnerable, my heart ached for him. And then vomiting began to creep up on me again. I swallowed as if that was going to help. Oh, okay, well, I can't wait to see you. You'll be here in an hour then. Yes, around 6. I let myself be comforted by the thought of seeing him in less than 2 hours as I stood up to go back to the bathroom. Okay, call me when you get here, I frowned. Or Alexa if I don't answer. Okay, I will. Try to get some sleep, please. I looked down at the toilet with heavy eyes. Sure, I'll try. Rebecca, I closed my eyes trying fight the vomiting. Yes, nothing. I just can't wait to see you. I actually smiled. Can't wait to see you either. Now hurry to me. Sorry. Always. A minute later, after hanging up, I was hurling above the toilet. I actually vomited a clear yellowish liquid, and I knew from reading online's article that it was because I had an empty stomach. I promised myself to eat after I got some sleep since I didn't have the energy to do anything else. I also made a mental note to stop googling everything. How ironic. My husband was a doctor, for God's sake. I needed to get a grip. Moments later, I did feel a bit better, at least good enough to go back to bed and close my eyes. I kept my phone closed, trying to stay half awake for when Damian called, but I failed miserably and fell asleep. I didn't remember him calling, so I thought it was a dream when I felt his warm body behind me as he put his arm around my waist and pulled me closer to him. I didn't open my eyes, afraid he might disappear if I did. I just snuggled closer to his body and imagined that he was home, there in my room. When I woke up, there was sunlight coming in through the curtains. Feeling a bit groggy, I got out of bed and walked to the bathroom. It was when I was brushing my teeth that I remembered Damian was supposed to be here. Rebecca, I frowned as I dried my face with a towel, then walked out of the bathroom. Standing by the doorway was Damian. He was wearing a gray suit with a white undershirt. His tie was loose around his collar. You're here, I said, a smile forming on my lips. He crossed the room and put his arms around me. He picked me up so my feet were dangling in the air. Hey, how are you? He asked as he nestled his face in the crook of my neck. I said happily as I breathed him in. I didn't realize how much I missed him until now. I was so happy that he was here. I wanted to cry better now that you're here. He put me down on the ground and touched my cheek. What's wrong? He asked, and I realized he was cleaning a tear. I sniffed. Oh, please ignore me. I cry for everything these days, I said with a laugh. I'm not going to ignore you, he said softly as he sat on the edge of the bed. Come here. He reached for my hand and pulled me gently. I walked over to him and sat on his lap. He placed his left hand on my knee and looked at me. I smiled at him. I'm fine. I just cry over everything, you'll see. He frowned. But you're not in any pain, right? No, I smiled. He was so sweet. I'm just emotional, just hormones. He reached out and placed his palm on my stomach. How's little Damian? I laughed. The baby's good. Damian looked at me and his brown eyes scanned my face. So how do you feel? What symptoms have you been experiencing? I smiled because he was such a doctor, just vomiting. I haven't been able to sleep through the night. I must look horrible, I said, touching my face, just barely realizing this fact. You look wonderful, he said, giving me a reassuring smile. I looked at him. When did you get here? A few hours ago. You were asleep, so I laid next to you on the bed. I was scared to wake you, but you didn't. He smiled, proud of himself. I thought I was dreaming, I said with a smile. Then I carefully asked, how are things in California? Good, he said with a nod. Most of the furniture is in the house now. Everything is taken care of. All it needs is you. I smiled, then reached out and placed my palm on his cheek. I felt the tiny spikes of his 5 o'clock shadow underneath my hand. What happened with your mother? He looked away. Nothing. He took a deep breath, then raised his eyebrows. Everything. I cursed his cheeks but didn't say anything. He looked conflicted. I didn't want to make him talk about it if he didn't want to right now. I wonder what Marianne said to him that affected him so much. He looked so sad now that I had brought her up. It made me regret asking. I'm sorry for not believing you completely when you told me about what you experienced when you lived with my mother. I'm so sorry, Rebecca. Please forgive me. I pressed my lips against his. It's forgiven, I assured him, running my thumbs across his lower lip. God, I was so in love with this man. My mother, she disappointed me. The image I had of who I thought she was is broken. He turned to look at me. I left the house for good. 3 years ago, maybe that would have been music to my ears, but I knew that Damian was hurting and I hated that. Why would Marianne want to hurt her own son? It was so despicable. I put my arms around Damian's neck and hugged him tightly. I'm so sorry, Damian. I wish things were different. I know, he said softly. Me too. I pulled away to look at him. For the record, I'm really happy you're here. He smiled and kissed me. I'm happy to be here too. We don't ever have to be in different states again. I like that. He touched my cheeks with the back of his hands. You need to eat. I knew that slowly. I know I'm going to shower first though. Alright, I'll go cook something up. I raised my eyebrows. Shoo, he chuckled. I was actually helping Alexa cook breakfast, believe it or not. Wow, I teased him, making him laugh. I'm gonna go shower then. I stood up and turned for the bathroom. Rebecca, I turned to look at the man who was looking at me, a smile playing on his lips. I love you, he said, then shrugged with a smile. For the record. I laughed, then shook my head with a smile. Just when I thought it was impossible to love him anymore, he proved me wrong. The best part was that it was not just words anymore. Damian was showing me how much he cared and loved me through his action, and thinking about that made me want to cry. He stood up and chuckled. Come on, don't cry. We laughed as she hugged me while I cried. I really was a mess. I looked up at the man through teary eyes and said, I told you I was crying for everything. He smiled at me like I was the most precious thing in the world. So, hanggang dyan muna tayo, and sorry sa mga nagwa-waiting, and patuloy pa rin po ako mag-upload, pero wait lang po sa mga, kasi medyo wala pa po akong oras, busy, it's December. And thank you for watching sa mga viewers ko, and good night.